Okay, today we're going to take and replace all the bearings in the front of this Suzuki four-wheel drive. It should be pretty close to the same on a Jeep or any of the older ones that take the trunnion bearings. We'll get back to you as we go along here. Okay, first thing we've done is remove the wheels. Set her up on jack stands, and now we're going to remove the brake drums or brake pads. So we have to find an Allen wrench for this particular number to get them loose. Some of them have nuts on them, but this one has Allen wrenches. So we'll get the brake pads out of the way, and then we'll go to our next step. Okay, now one thing that I like to do is I do one side at a time. I don't start tearing everything apart. That way I've got something to reference to in case I get gummed up or what have you. So we're just going to do one side at a time. Now we're going to do the brake drum right now. And if you got one of these big C-clamps, it makes it really easy to take the brake drum off. I'm going to set the camera down and kind of get a little focus going here on it. And you can watch that on this C-clamp. So you take the C-clamp and tighten your brake drum down. And I didn't know this trick. I've been doing it the hard way all these years. But you just take this and you tighten it down. It should release the pressure off of the cylinder, and then you should be able to pop the brake right off of the should be able to. Don't bet on it. Okay, well that didn't go so good. We'll get back to the original side. Okay, we have a set of keepers on top of the brakes. We were kind of holding them. And then we got another keeper right here. And all we got to do is pop this little guy off. And if you study it, each one is going to be different. You'll find that it's quite simple once you figure it out. Right now, there we go. And the brakes are off. Quick brake inspection, they're looking good. They should. I just put them in a month or two ago. And now we're ready to go to the next step, which will be taking apart the hub. Now I've got a complete set of metric tools for this job, which makes it really popular. And I've also got air tools, which makes the job speed up quite a bit. So we'll take the hub off now and we'll see what we got. Here goes nothing. It's like a 10 millimeter. It is a 10 millimeter. And so here comes the noise. Good idea to get something to put your parts in, so we'll get back to you. Now most of these have a keeper that's inside of here, and it's kind of a, you'll be needing a tool on the order of this, more than likely. It's also a large nut in there. We'll do that here when we get to it, but right now I got to get that little keeper out. That's a two-handed deal, so we'll get back to you on that one. 10 minutes later, and we have a little clip out. It's really, some of these clips have holes in them, and they work really good. You can spread them, but that one does not. Now the whole thing comes right off in our hot little hand. And now we can expose the the nuts. Now, they do make a butt wrench for this, but I don't happen to have one, so we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, which means we got to take these keepers, jam them back. There's one. And then we just take the old screwdriver and the hammer and we just play this little game. We have new nuts for this, so no big deal. This is much easier if you have the proper tool for it, but we don't, so we're going to use what we got. I hope you can help. This is viewing well. We can see what we're doing. Anyway, and behind here, we're going to find our bearings. Also, these parts can be sharp, so be a little cautious in here. Otherwise, your fingers are all cut up and it's a heck of a mess. There's one nut off. Then you can't really pull the keeper out. It's this niche little groovy thing. And that keeps the nuts from unscrewing and the bearings from loosening up. And then we take this thing out here and same trick with it. And then it starts to come out of there. See, that little job didn't take any time at all. It was just getting the little keeper out of there. And that keeper is the trick to putting it in, taking it out. Now, should be able to. I'm going to probably have to dismantle a couple more things, but the bearing is sitting right here. And we'll just take the old bearing out of there just to show you. There's a washer. It goes over the bearing. I'm going to set him here because he's going to get clean too. Like I say, see, at this point I have a reference. I know there's a washer against the bearing. And that way you don't end up making a gigantic mess out of everything. Kind of makes a mess. And these bearings are dead wore out. I mean, they're in sad shape. Probably original bearings from 1987, so it is well overdue to do this. And at this point, I'm also not too worried about this bearing anymore because it is El Chateau. They're burnt, they're wore out, so we'll get back to you. Okay, I had to remove this little job up here that holds the brakes in place. And now that I got him out of there, she'll come right out of my hand, see? So, we'll get back to you when we get to the next step, which will be punching the races out of here and getting the rear bearing and the seal cap. Okay, I've removed the backing plate, and now we're down to these, I call these trunnion bearings. They're also knuckle bearings, I guess. They have different names, but I've always called them trunnion bearings. It's an old school thing. These are the ones that are giving me the trouble. Well, all the bearings are. But these are creating a shimmy in the front end because they're just flat wore out. I packed them up with grease and packed them up with grease. So we're going to remove these caps. And underneath those are a set of bearings. And then this whole hub, once I remove all these bolts in the back here, this hub will come off of this. So, well, I'll get back to you when we get it all tore apart. Okay, we've gotten to this point. If we slide this off, then we can see the knuckle joint. And this is a trunnion bearing cap. And down in the hole there is some trunnion bearings. So we're going to get those out of there. And then we'll see where we go from there. Some of them come out real easy and some don't. These will, because I've had them apart. It's been apart and I've jimmy rigged it with grease and everything else. And it wants to come out of there. And I got to pull all these bolts in the back and then the whole thing will come out. We'll get back to you when we get to that step. Okay, here we have the axle. I pulled the hub off, and there's the trunnion bearings, the uppers and the lowers. You can see them sitting right here. They will actually pop out of there. So, what we got to do now is just pull the bearings. There's one on the ground. And pull the races and put it all back together. I'll be back to you. Okay, we've put the bearings in, the new races, and the axle back in. We're going to slide this over it, and theoretically everything should go the way it's supposed to. Let's see what happens. Okay, then we got to put the caps back in, drop the caps in. Let's take these out, and there's a red thing out there. It's got gasoline in it. And a brush, and give me your 1, 2, and we'll get back to you.